Commander Elias Kane had never imagined he would see the day when his own hands were bound with alien chains. The cold metal bit into his wrists, and the weight of the shackles made every step feel heavy. Around him, the corridors of the Safari. Capital ships stretched endlessly, alive with strange bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like the heartbeat of some enormous creature. He had fought in countless battles before, on Earth, on Mars, in the asteroid belts, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Safari were not like any enemy he had faced. They were not only physically formidable, but had a discipline and intelligence that made them terrifying. Their empire ruled. Multiple star systems with iron precision, and humanity was barely a flicker in their vast dominion. Elias's capture had been quick and merciless. His mission to sabotage a Safari fleet had failed. A single miscalculation, a misread sensor, a slight timing error, and the enemy had swarmed his squadron. Ships that had once moved like shadows now cornered him and his men with overwhelming firepower. He remembered the moment his fighters' thrusters were disabled, the alarms screaming inside the cockpit, before a beam of energy knocked him unconscious. When he awoke, he was no longer on his ship. The metallic walls around him hummed with energy. Strange creatures, part insect, part humanoid, with glowing eyes and segmented limbs, moved silently beside him. Their faces showed no emotion, only the efficiency of soldiers trained to follow, orders without question. Every step he took echoed against the corridors, making him painfully aware of his chains. "Commander Kane," one of the alien guards said in a harsh, clicking tone that Elias barely understood, "you will be brought before the Queen." Elias knew the stories. The Safari Queen was a figure of legend among humans who had studied the aliens. She never left her chamber. She had never spoken directly to a human, or any outsider for that matter. Entire fleets had been destroyed for attempting an audience. Yet here he was, shackled, and being led straight to her. Despite the fear, a strange calm settled over him. Elias had always believed in facing danger head-on, and he would do so now. He straightened his shoulders, his eyes scanning every corner of the alien corridors. There might be traps, there might be guards hidden behind walls or ceilings. Every detail mattered. As they walked, he observed the vastness of the ship. It was alive in a way no human ship ever could be. The walls seemed to breathe, faintly expanding and contracting. Bioluminescent veins of energy pulsed beneath the surface, sending flickers of light through the corridors. Alien symbols adorned the walls, glowing softly. Some of them seemed like writing, others like moving patterns that shifted as he looked at them. He had no idea what any of it meant, yet something in him stirred, a memory, faint and distant, of a time long before the war. A time when humans had quietly observed alien colonies, mapping them from afar, learning their languages and habits in secret. His father had been part of that effort. Elias remembered the stories he had been told as a child, tales of alien civilizations that were not monsters, but proud and intelligent beings capable of reason, honor, and even friendship. Was it possible that some part of that old connection still lived, even in the heart of the Safari Empire? The thought was fleeting, but it gave him a spark of hope. Hope could be dangerous in captivity, yet he clung to it. The guards moved him into a larger chamber. The room was immense, wider than any hangar he had ever seen. It glowed with a strange light, soft but powerful, illuminating massive structures that Elias could not comprehend. The air was thick, almost alive, carrying the faint scent of ozone and something organic. At the far end of the room, he saw her, the Queen. She was unlike anything Elias had imagined. Towering and elegant, she had a presence that commanded the room without words. Her skin glowed faintly, a deep iridescent color that shifted with every movement. Her eyes were enormous, multifaceted, reflecting light in ways that made it impossible to look away. Limbs extended gracefully from her form, and subtle wings, or fins moved rhythmically, like a dancer in slow motion. But it was her mind, her presence, that struck him the most. He could feel intelligence radiating off her, a calm yet powerful force that seemed to probe the very edges of his thoughts. The guards pushed him forward, his chains clanging against the floor. Every instinct screamed to fight, to flee. But he knew he had no chance. Not yet. Survival meant patience, observation, strategy. As he approached, a memory surfaced clearly for the first time in years. His father, teaching him an old alien dialect in secret, whispering that understanding was the key to survival. Elias swallowed and in a quiet voice said a simple greeting, words learned from his father, meant for this exact moment. The room went silent. The queen paused, her massive eyes locking onto him. Her body shifted slightly, an unmistakable gesture of recognition. Elias froze. Nothing in his training had prepared him for the reaction he saw. She stood fully upright. A Sci-Fi queen had never done that before for a human. For a moment, time seemed to stretch. The guards looked tense. The queen's bioluminescence pulsed faster, brighter. Elias's voice trembled slightly as he spoke again, testing the recognition. She nodded, subtly, almost imperceptibly. Something had changed. The queen knew him. Or rather, she recognized the echo of his father in his voice. A connection long thought lost had resurfaced in the heart of the alien empire. Elias allowed himself a tiny spark of hope. The shackles were still heavy, the corridors, still alien and dangerous, but for the first time, he felt that survival, and perhaps something more, was possible. The queen did not speak. Not yet. But the way she looked at him, the way she moved, hinted at a story untold, a history that might change everything. Elias realized that the war, the capture, and even his shackles might be part of a larger path he was only beginning to understand, and in that moment, he made a silent promise to himself. He would not just survive. He would find a way to turn recognition into hope, hope into strategy, and strategy into a chance for humanity to rise again. Elias Kane's shackles clinked softly as the guards led him deeper into the alien ship. The corridors grew wider, and the faint glow of the walls shifted into warmer colors, pulsing gently, as though the ship itself was guiding him. Every step made his muscles ache, and the chains rubbed his wrists raw, but Elias forced himself to keep walking, his mind alert to every detail. Ahead, the chamber doors loomed, tall, curved, and shimmering with a strange energy. This was the Queen's chamber. The stories humans had whispered for years came to life here. It was said that no human had ever entered and lived to tell the tale. The Queen did not tolerate weakness. She did not tolerate deceit. And yet, somehow, Elias was being allowed inside. The massive doors slid open silently, revealing a space unlike anything he had ever imagined. The chamber was enormous, stretching hundreds of meters in every direction. Its walls were alive, glowing with bioluminescent patterns that moved in slow, hypnotic dances. The floor seemed to ripple under his feet, smooth and organic. In the center, perched on a raised platform, was the Queen herself. She was majestic and terrifying at the same time. Her skin shimmered like liquid crystal, colors shifting from deep purple to green and gold. Limbs extended gracefully from her body, moving in a way that seemed both deliberate and effortless, almost like a fluid dance. Her eyes, enormous and multifaceted, reflected the chamber's light in dazzling patterns. And her presence, her mind, radiated power and intelligence so intense that Elias felt as if the room itself bent to her will. The guards shoved him forward, and he stumbled slightly. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to run. but he forced himself to remain calm. This was not the time for brash moves. Every gesture, every word could mean life or death. He took a deep breath and spoke, softly but clearly. "Greetings, Queen. I am Elias Kane of Earth." The room fell completely silent. The bioluminescent patterns on the walls pulsed slower, as if listening. Elias had used the old dialect, learned secretly from his father, a language long abandoned by most humans. He had practiced it for years, never imagining he would need it here. The Queen froze. One of her massive limbs hovered mid-air, as if caught in a sudden thought. Then, slowly, she rose from her platform. It was a gesture Elias had never expected. No human or any outsider had ever seen her stand for them. And yet, here she was, standing upright, as though something inside her remembered him, or at least the echo of someone he carried. Her gaze fixed on him, unblinking, and Elias felt a strange warmth, almost like recognition. Something in her mind reached out, not hostile, not curious, but familiar. He had only heard of such moments in the old stories, when humans and Scifi shared understanding across impossible barriers. Elias steadied himself and took another careful step forward. I mean no harm," he said. "I only wish to speak." The Queen did not answer aloud. Her voice was not like theirs. It resonated in his mind, calm but powerful. "You carry the voice of one long past. You are not what I expected." Elias's heart skipped. She knew him, or more accurately, she recognized the echo of his father, who had once helped her species during a crisis on a distant world. That secret, buried in time and memory, had survived the centuries and found its way into him. I am his son," Elias said, keeping his voice steady. "I learned your language as a child, secretly, so I could understand you, so we could communicate." The Queen's eyes widened slightly, a reaction rare for her kind. She tilted her head, examining him carefully as if searching for deception. But Elias could feel no threat, only curiosity and perhaps a trace of respect. She had stood, unprompted, and that was a gesture no other Scifi had ever given to a human. The chamber shifted subtly, the walls glowing brighter, responding to her mood, or perhaps to the recognition she felt. The energy in the room hummed through Elias's body, a strange mix of awe and tension. Every nerve felt alive, every thought sharp. He knew that this moment could change everything, not just for him, but for humanity. The Queen moved closer, her limbs gliding gracefully, and Elias took careful note of her gestures. In the Scifi world, posture and movement were as important as words. Her approach was neither aggressive nor defensive. It was deliberate, controlled, and commanding. "You speak the truth," her voice echoed in his mind. "You carry the past. Yet now, the present is full of war. Tell me, why should I trust you?" Elias swallowed, his mind racing. He knew he could not reveal everything. Not yet. The Scifi had spies, telepaths, and enforcers everywhere. One wrong word could cost him his life. "Because," he said slowly, "I know there is still a chance for peace. Your species and mine. We were allies once. We can be again, if given the chance." The Queen paused, her many eyes narrowing. Elias could feel the weight of her judgment. He did not flinch. Instead, he continued, carefully measuring each word. "I am not here as an enemy. I am a prisoner, yes. But I also carry knowledge. Knowledge of your military, your fleet positions, and of the humans who fight to survive. I can help, if you choose to listen." For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the Queen spoke again, her voice a ripple through his mind. Few humans would dare speak this way. Most would beg or resist foolishly. You are different. Elias allowed himself a small spark of hope. He still wore his shackles, and the danger had not disappeared. But this recognition, the acknowledgement, from the Queen, was something no human had ever achieved. It was a key, a door, and perhaps the first step toward survival. The Queen leaned back slightly, her gaze still fixed on him. "I will observe you," she said. "You may remain in my presence. Do not attempt to deceive me. Do not attempt to flee. Your life depends on your actions from this moment forward." Elias nodded. He had expected no less. Survival had always required discipline, patience, and strategy. Now, more than ever, he would need every skill he had ever learned. And somehow, he felt that this moment, meeting the Queen, earning her recognition, was the beginning of something far greater than mere survival. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges to come. Shackled or not, he would not just exist in this alien empire. He would play a part in its future, and perhaps, just perhaps, he could help humans. Rise once more! Elias Kane remained in the Queen's chamber, shackled yet strangely unafraid. The moment he had spoken in the old dialect, something had shifted in her presence, and he could feel it now. A cautious curiosity, almost like a flicker of recognition. He had survived countless battles against humans and aliens alike, but this was different. Here, he was not facing an enemy in combat. He was facing a mind so vast that every thought of his seemed to echo in the room. The Queen's massive form hovered closer. Her limbs glided with an elegance that seemed impossible for something so large. The chamber walls pulsed softly, as if responding to her thoughts. Elias realized that in the Scifi world, even silence carried meaning. Every pause, every movement, was deliberate. "You carry memories not your own," the Queen's voice resonated in his mind. "I feel the echo of another. A human, long past. Why does his voice live in you?" Elias swallowed hard. His father's stories flooded back. Tales of a secret mission centuries ago, when humans had quietly aided the Scifi during a planetary disaster. Few knew the truth. Humans had once been allies, offering technology and strategy to save the alien colonies from a deadly plague. His father had been one of the few humans trusted by the Queen herself, though it had never been spoken openly. "I am his son," Elias said carefully. "I carry his memory in more ways than one. I learned your language in secret, and I know the history of our peoples. I know that humans and Scifi were once allies, before the war started, before fear and pride separated us." The Queen's many eyes widened, and she leaned closer, the air around her shimmering with bioluminescent energy. Centuries pass, yet the memory remains. He was honorable, and you are his echo. Elias nodded, though his hands were still shackled. "I am not here to harm you," he said. "I am a prisoner, yes, but I carry knowledge. I know the weaknesses of your fleet, the strategies your generals favor. I know the humans who fight for survival, and I know the chance for peace, if it can be seized now." A soft hum filled the chamber. The Queen tilted her head, considering his words. Few humans dare to speak this way. Most beg, most scream, most lie. You speak truth, and yet war surrounds you. Why should I trust a species that has destroyed so much? Elias paused. He had expected this question. The Scifi were proud and wary, and their memory of humanity was colored by fear and conflict. "Because," he said carefully, "not all humans are the same. Some fight only for destruction, some fight for survival, and some fight for honor, like my father did, like I will. Trust is earned, not demanded. But I am willing to show you, through my actions, that humans are capable of more than war. We are capable of alliances, of strategy, of respect. The queen shifted, her massive limbs moving slowly, almost thoughtfully. The chamber walls pulsed brighter, a response to her emotions, or perhaps her thought patterns. Elias realized that in this world, the environment itself mirrored the mind of the queen. Every flicker, every ripple of light was a message. Your words are cautious, careful. But there is fire beneath them, the queen said. Like him, like the one who once aided us. You will need more than words to survive here. You will need knowledge, patience, and strategy. Elias felt a surge of determination. He had survived countless impossible missions, but this challenge was unlike any he had faced. Here, his survival depended not on his weapon, not on his squadron, but on his mind and his ability to understand an alien culture. Their language, their values, I understand, he said. I will do what I must, not just to survive, but to create a path toward peace. I need your guidance and your patience. The queen's gaze softened, though her power remained undeniable. You speak of peace, but our worlds are locked. In war, my generals would see you destroyed for daring to enter my chamber. You will need more than words, human. You will need allies. Elias nodded again. He had anticipated this. I can help you find allies, he said carefully. There are officers in your empire who remember the old ways, who remember the time when humans were allies. They will. Listen if you permit me to speak to them. Together we can find a way to survive this war, and perhaps even end it. The queen's massive form tilted slightly, the many limbs folding in subtle gestures. You are bold, human, and yet boldness alone does not survive here. You must be subtle. You must move carefully like a shadow across water. One wrong move, and your life and your purpose will be lost. Elias clenched his fists, the metal of the shackles cold against his skin. He understood. Subtlety, patience, observation. These were not just tools. They were weapons in this alien world. Every glance, every word, every movement could shift the balance between life and death. I will observe you, the queen said. Learn our ways, understand our hierarchy, and in time, perhaps you will prove that humanity is worthy of a place in this galaxy. But remember, human, trust is fragile. One misstep, and it will be gone. Elias felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The queen had given him a chance no other human had ever received. But it came with responsibility, with danger, with the weight of history on his shoulders. He straightened his back, meeting her gaze. I will not fail, he said quietly but firmly. I will honor the memory of my father, the trust of your species, and the hope of humanity. The queen tilted her head once more, her bioluminescence pulsing softly, as if approving, though in her way it was a warning as well. Then let the past guide you, human, and let your actions determine the future. The war is not over, and neither is your journey. Elias Kane allowed himself a small, steadying breath. He was still shackled, still a prisoner, still facing a galaxy at war. But for the first time, he felt a spark of hope, not just for survival, but for something greater. Humanity might not only endure, it might rise again. And this alien queen, who now recognized him, might be the key. Elias Kane woke each day, still bound by alien chains, but something inside him had changed. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was being watched, studied, tested by the Zephyri Queen herself. The recognition she had shown him, the way she had stood and acknowledged his voice, gave him a rare advantage. It was not freedom, but it was a chance. And Elias knew how to turn even the smallest chance into survival. The Queen had told him plainly he must learn, observe, and move carefully. The Safari world was full of eyes and ears, and one wrong word could end his life instantly. Elias took her advice to heart. Every day he paid close attention to the guards who moved around him, to the officers who whispered orders, and to the patterns of the ship itself. The Safari were disciplined, but not perfect. Elias soon noticed small cracks in their order. Some officers argued quietly when they thought no one was listening. Some soldiers showed hesitation before carrying out harsh commands. Others glanced at him with curiosity rather than hatred. Elias knew these were signs of discontent, of doubt, of memory. The Queen had been right. Somewhere inside the Empire, old loyalty to humanity still lived. When he was brought into the Queen's chamber again, she observed him silently, her many eyes studying him like a puzzle. The walls pulsed faintly with her mood. "What have you learned, human?" Her voice echoed in his mind. Elias bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect he had copied from her own officers. "I have seen cracks," he said. "Not all your people agree with the war. Some remember the past. Some might be willing to listen if you give them permission." The Queen tilted her massive form, her limbs folding thoughtfully. "You see clearly," she said, "but words are not enough. Show me you can act without being seen. Show me you can move in shadow." It was the challenge Elias had been waiting for. Over the next days, he began his subtle rebellion. Shackled though he used his mind like a blade. When guards escorted him through the ship, he whispered in their language, small comments, small seeds. "The war is endless," he would say quietly. Or, "The Queen remembers another way." At first, they ignored him, but sometimes he caught the flicker of hesitation in their eyes, a sign that his words had landed. He also observed the ship's systems. The Safari relied on living machines, organisms fused with technology, but even they had weaknesses. By memorizing patterns, in their glowing walls and the timing of energy pulses, Elias began to understand how information flowed through the ship. A single misdirection at the right time could confuse entire units. One evening, during a transfer from one chamber to another, he made his first real move. The guards marched him past a row of data conduits, pulsing veins of light that carried orders across the ship. With a sudden stumble, Elias fell forward, dragging his chains against the conduit. Sparks flickered, small and brief, but enough to delay a set of commands being transmitted. Later, he overheard two officers arguing about a squadron arriving, late for patrol. It was only a small act, but it mattered. Elias smiled inwardly. A shadow had moved across their perfect order, but danger followed quickly. A rival Safari general, a tall, armored figure with eyes as sharp as blades, began to watch him closely. This general did not trust the Queen's interest in the human. He whispered to others, spreading doubt. Elias could feel the suspicion in every step, in every gaze that lingered too long. One mistake, and the general would have him executed. Still, Elias pressed forward. In the Queen's chamber, he spoke carefully. "There are those among your court who still respect you," he said. "They look to you for guidance. If you show them mercy, if you remind them of the old ways, they will follow you." The Queen's gaze was heavy, her bioluminescence pulsing slowly. "You risk much, human. These are dangerous words, but there are those who remember. Perhaps you speak truth, perhaps not. Continue." Encouraged, Elias began to weave connections. When given food, he thanked the servers in their dialect, showing respect. When guards mocked him, he answered with calm logic instead of anger, earning their quiet admiration. And when he passed officers in the corridors, he whispered fragments of history, tales of humans and Safari once fighting side by side against a plague, against the void itself. Some ignored him, but others listened. The rebellion was not a storm. It was a whisper, a whisper that spread slowly, carefully, like water seeping into cracks of stone. But the rival general grew more dangerous. One day he confronted Elias in the corridor, his voice sharp and his claws inches from Elias's throat. "You are no ally," the general hissed. "You are a parasite. You seek to poison us with your words." Elias met his glare calmly, though fear coiled inside him. "If I were a parasite," he said softly, "would the queen allow me to live? Ask yourself why she stands for me when she stands for no one else." The general snarled but pulled back, unwilling to challenge the queen openly. For now, Elias was safe. But the warning was clear. His rebellion was walking on a knife's edge. Later, in the queen's chamber, Elias reported what had happened. She regarded him silently for a long time before speaking. "You test the edges of the blade, human. You walk close to death, and yet you remain alive. Perhaps your fire is not without purpose." Elias bowed slightly. "I will do what I must," he said. "Not just for me, not just for humanity, but for a future where our species do not destroy each other." The queen tilted her massive form again, her wings shimmering faintly. "Then, continue your shadows, human. Continue your whispers. In time, we will see if your fire can burn brighter than the darkness around you." Elias straightened. His chains were still heavy, the general still dangerous, and the war still raged across the stars. But now, he was more than a prisoner. He was a seed of change, hidden within the heart of the Scifi Empire, and if that seed grew, it could shatter the galaxy's chains forever. Word count, 950. The tension inside the Scifi capital ship grew with each passing day. Elias Kane could feel it in the way the soldiers walked, in the way the officers argued when they thought no one listened, and in the whispers that spread through the corridors, like hidden fire. What had started as small seeds, his words, his respectful gestures, his stories of old alliances, were now growing into something larger. The queen had noticed, and so had her enemies. The rival general, a towering figure, with armored limbs and sharp, unblinking eyes, had grown more dangerous. He moved with suspicion, watching Elias like a predator waiting for its prey to stumble. Several times Elias caught him whispering to others, sowing doubt against both him and the queen. If the general gained enough support, Elias knew the fragile hope he had created could vanish in an instant. Yet there were victories, too. Some guards had stopped treating him as a mere prisoner. A few even began to show small signs of respect, bowing their heads when they passed him. One officer, a younger Scifi whose eyes carried curiosity rather than hatred, dared to speak with him in secret. "You are not like other humans," the officer whispered one night when the corridors were empty. "You speak as if you belong here." "Why?" Elias answered calmly. "Because I believe we do not have to be enemies. Long ago, humans and Scifi stood together. We can do so again, but only if we have the courage to change." The officer said nothing more, but Elias saw the light of thought flicker in his eyes. It was enough. Soon after, the queen summoned Elias again. The chamber glowed faintly, the walls shifting with soft light as she studied him. "Your whispers grow louder," her voice echoed in his mind. "The discontent spreads. But the danger also grows." The general sharpens his claws. "He will not remain silent." Elias bowed his head. "Then we must act before he does." The queen's eyes gleamed, reflecting 1,000 sparks of light. "You propose rebellion, human?" Elias met her gaze, firmly. "Not rebellion against you. Rebellion against those who wish for endless war. Those who seek only destruction. If we move carefully, if we strike at the right moment, we can win." The queen was silent for a long time, her presence heavy in the chamber. Finally, she leaned closer. "Very well, but understand this. If you fail, You will not only lose your life, you will lose the trust of those who follow you, and humanity will be forgotten forever." Elias nodded. He already understood. The plan unfolded in shadows. Elias, still bound in chains, whispered to the guards who carried food, to the officers who oversaw patrols, to anyone who listened. The queen, though cautious, allowed her loyalists to hear his words. Slowly, a small network of Scifi began to form around him, loyal not to the general but to the queen, and perhaps in time to him. Then the day came. The general made his move. Elias was being escorted through the corridor when alarms suddenly blared. The walls pulsed red, and the air vibrated with the sound of war horns. Scifi soldiers rushed past, weapons glowing with energy. The guards around him looked uncertain, torn between duty and fear. The general appeared, his massive frame blocking the corridor. His voice was sharp as steel. "This ends now. The human is a poison. He twists words and spreads weakness. I will end him, and with him the queen's foolishness." Elias stood tall, though his wrists were still chained. He looked the general in the eyes and spoke calmly. "You fear me because you fear the truth. You fear peace because war is the only thing that gives you power." The general roared, his claws snapping open, ready to strike. But before he could move, a new voice thundered through the chamber walls. "Enough." The queen appeared, her immense form filling the corridor, her bioluminescent body glowing with fierce intensity. The guards froze, lowering their weapons in awe. The queen's presence was overwhelming, her gaze sharp as she looked down at the general. "You dare raise your claws against one under my protection?" she demanded, her voice shaking the very walls. "You forget who I am. I am the queen, and I choose who stands in my presence." The general hesitated, but his pride was too great. "He is a human, a prisoner. He has no place here." The queen's wings unfurled, shimmering with power. "He has more place than you, traitor. He carries the voice of the past. He carries hope for the future, and you—" Her voice grew thunderous. "You carry only death." At her signal, loyal guards moved swiftly, surrounding the general. He fought back fiercely, his claws striking, his body glowing with energy, but the queen's loyalists outnumbered him. In moments, he was forced to his knees, his defiance broken. The chamber light shifted again, glowing bright and steady. Elias felt the shift in the air, the moment of decision. The queen had chosen, and she had chosen him. The uprising spread quickly. Loyalists seized control of key corridors, cutting off the general's followers. Ship systems flickered as orders were rewritten, patrols redirected, and entire fleets confused. Humans outside the ship, waiting for an opportunity, began their counterattack, striking weakened Scifi units. Elias moved through it all, still bound by chains, but no longer seen as a prisoner. Scifi loyalists looked to him for guidance, listening to his calm commands. He directed movements, using his knowledge of human and alien strategy alike. For the first time, humans and Scifi were fighting side by side again, not as enemies, but as allies against chaos. By the end of the day, the general's forces had been crushed. The queen stood victorious, her loyalists surrounding her, her presence radiant and unshaken. She turned her gaze to Elias, and for a moment, her eyes softened. "You have done what no other human has," she said. "You have united us in shadow, but shadows cannot last forever. Soon, the galaxy will see what has begun here." Elias bowed his head. "Then let them see. Let them know that humans will not bow, but neither will we destroy. We will rise, with you, if you allow it." The queen's wings shimmered brightly, a sign of approval. "Then rise, human, rise, and let this be the dawn of something new." Elias felt the weight of the chains on his wrists, but for the first time, They no longer felt like prison. They felt like symbols of what he had endured and what he was about to break free from. The uprising was only the beginning. The uprising was over, but the echoes of battle still lingered through the vast halls of the Scifi capital ship. Sparks glowed on the walls where energy blasts had scorched them, and the air carried the sharp scent of burned metal, broken weapons, and fragments of armor lay scattered across the floors, reminders of a day when everything had changed. Elias Kane walked slowly, still in his chains, though the guards no longer treated him like a captive. Now they walked beside him with respect, not suspicion. Every step he took carried the weight of new beginnings. He had survived, but survival was not enough. Now came the true challenge, building something lasting from the fragile unity he had sparked. The Queen awaited him in the grand chamber. The bioluminescent walls pulsed with soft, steady light, no longer trembling with anger or fear. She stood tall, her immense form radiant, her wings spread wide. Around her, loyal Scifi knelt in respect, their eyes fixed on the leader who had chosen hope over war. When Elias entered, the Queen's gaze fell upon him. She did not speak at once, letting the silence stretch like a bridge between them. Finally, her voice filled the chamber. "The general is gone, his followers scattered, but the scars of division remain. You spoke of peace, human. Now prove it. Show us the path." Elias raised his head. His voice was calm, steady, though his heart carried the weight of the moment. "The path is not easy. Trust is not built in a day, and wounds do not close overnight. But we can begin, together." He paused, looking at the Scifi around him. Their sharp alien features seemed less hostile now, softened by curiosity and doubt. "Humans and Scifi once stood as allies, long before hatred grew between us. If we could find strength in each other, then why not now? The galaxy is vast, full of dangers neither of us can face alone. But together, we can survive." The Queen's eyes glimmered, her voice like distant thunder. "And what of your people, Elias Kane? Will they accept this union, or will they see betrayal?" Elias thought of Earth, of the leaders who had sent fleets into battle, of the countless humans who saw Scifi only as monsters. "Some will fear it, some will resist, but I will stand before them and speak the truth. They must know what I have seen here. They must know that the Scifi are not our end, but perhaps our future." The chamber grew silent again. Then, slowly, the Queen lowered her head. "You carry courage in chains. Perhaps it is time to break them." At her signal, one of the guards stepped forward. With a swift motion, the heavy shackles around Elias's wrists fell away, clattering to the floor. For the first time in months, his hands were free. He flexed his fingers, feeling both strange weakness and new strength. The chains were gone, but the memory of them remained, a reminder of what had been endured and what had been earned. The Queen's wings spread wide, her voice rising with power. "Hear me, children of Zephyr. Today we choose not endless war. Today we choose a path of alliance. This human, once a prisoner, stands now as a bridge between our worlds. His voice will be heard as my own, and together we will shape the galaxy." The chamber erupted in sound. Some Scifi hissed with doubt, others roared with approval. But none could deny the Queen's will. Elias stood tall, knowing the path ahead would be filled with challenges, but also with hope. Days turned into weeks as the first steps were taken. Messages were sent across the galaxy, calls for ceasefires, for negotiations, for something that had not been spoken in generations: peace. Human fleets, confused at first, found themselves facing Scifi ships that no longer attacked but held their fire. Tentative meetings began in neutral space, guarded and tense, yet filled with the possibility of change. Elias stood at the center of it all. Once shackled, now he spoke freely, before human admirals, before alien commanders, before councils, filled with suspicion. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. We can fight forever and lose everything, or we can stand together and build something greater than war. It was not easy. Some humans called him a traitor. Some Scifi called him weak. Yet slowly, step by step, cracks in the walls of hatred began to form, and through those cracks, light began to shine. One night, as Elias stood on the viewing deck of the capital ship, he looked out into the stars. The endless black stretched before him, scattered with countless lights, worlds waiting, dangers lurking, possibilities unending. The queen stood beside him, her vast form glowing softly in the dark. "You have changed us," she said quietly. "But more, you have changed yourself. Do you regret the path you have taken?" Elias shook his head. "No. Every chain, every wound, every trial, it brought me here. And here is where I was meant to be." The queen's wings shifted, shimmering like rivers of light. "Then let it be written. The day a human walked in chains and the queen stood for his voice was the day the galaxy began to turn." Elias smiled faintly. He did not know what the future would hold. Perhaps new enemies would rise. Perhaps old wounds would reopen. But he knew one truth, a truth that no war could erase. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not broken. Humanity could endure, could adapt, could inspire even the fiercest of enemies. And now, for the first time, humanity was not alone. The stars stretched endlessly before them, not as a battlefield, but as a horizon. Together, human and Scifi would walk toward it, step by step, side by side. The dawn had begun,